What's up guys? Welcome to another motocross action video. Today we have a very unique one for you as we are riding the 2023 KTM Freeride EXC electric bike today. This bike is not new. This bike has been around since 2012. It was first imported to the US in 2015 in a small quantity. It was sold at a few dealers, but not very popular in the US. They didn't really push their electric bike KTM. For 2018, that was when we got the second generation model. Came in with a lot more battery, a lot more power, and a few other updates to the bike. And now for 2023, KTM is kind of reintroducing their bike. They brought in 1,000 units here to the US, and they're making a push trying to talk more about electric bikes and explain to the users and to the people out there in the world right now riding dirt bikes that, hey, KTM has had electric bikes since 2012, but now it's finally starting to become cool. So they're like, well, we have this bike, been around for a while. It's not a motocross bike. It's not something that we're gonna ride here on the main track and pass any 250s, 450s, 125s, or even 85s. This is more of a trail bike and more of a trials type bike. So 24 horsepower is what it has in the max Map 3 aggressive setting. So not a super fast bike, but it is fun. It's made to mess around on trails, rocks, and stuff like that. So today we're gonna ride it. We're gonna talk to you guys about this bike and tell you what it's like on the track and on the trails. I'm already married, so if I die, everything goes to Ashley, and I trust that she'll give everything out. You know, my mountain bike and my road bike. That's really what I'm worried about. I trust that she'll find the right person for him. So what's up with e-bikes and KTM? Well, KTM, obviously we know that they've been pushing their KTM SX E5 mini bike. It's kind of a KTM 50, but an electric version. They even brought that into Supercross, into the Supercross Juniors. So now in Supercross halftime show, you can't even hear the little 50s riding around because they're all on e-bikes. So KTM has been focusing on their mini bikes, using electric bikes to get new riders into the market and basically making it easier for parents to maintain motorcycles and to have their kid ride in the backyard without making noise complaints with their neighbors in their neighborhood. So the nice thing about electric bikes, you don't have to change air filters, you don't have to pour gas into the bike, and the maintenance overall is very, very simple on these bikes. KTM also announced in a press release that they're gonna have 20 new electric bikes coming before 2025. So in the next 2.5, 3 years, we're gonna see a lot more electric bikes coming from KTM, Husky, and Gas. So no, I don't expect to see any crazy jump in big bike electric bikes, at least not yet, but we do expect to see them building off of their SX E3, SX E5, the mini bikes, and then jumping up to the next two markets after that, which would be the 65 market and the 85 market. So that's where we kind of are keeping our eyes on, looking out for the next electric bikes from KTM. Talking a little bit more about the specs on this KTM Freeride e-bike. This thing, like I mentioned, tops out at 24 horsepower in Map 3. It also has Map 1, Map 2, and Map 3. So Map 1 is a very, very easy map, something you could teach your girlfriend, your wife, or someone who's never ridden a motorcycle before. Map 1 will be perfect for teaching somebody how to ride. Map 2 is a step up from that. And Map 3 is much more aggressive, much more exciting to ride on the track. Diving into more specs on this bike, it costs $11,099. So this is not a cheap motorcycle by any stretch of the imagination. It has the WP Explorer suspension, so it doesn't have air forks. It doesn't have the same exact components that come on the motocross bikes. The Explorer is what you find on the Enduro bikes from KTM. It also is a no-link rear suspension, so it's got the PDS rear shock. And other tires, it's got the Maxxis gummy tires on it, so perfect for trail riding, perfect for some trials type riding. It also has Formula brakes. Formula is similar to Brembo, but not made by the same company. And another big topic, it doesn't have a foot pedal brake. So you have the front brake in your standard front brake position on the right-hand side of the handlebars, and then your rear brake is on the left-hand side of the handlebars. So no clutch, no foot pedal for braking, no foot pedal for shifting. All your braking is gonna be done with your rear brake on your left hand, front brake on your right hand. So pretty interesting stuff. It's got the steel chromoly frame with a carbon composite subframe, and the weight is actually super heavy on this thing. It's 245 pounds, so that's heavier than a KTM 450. Pretty heavy for how small the bike is in relative size. It is like a big bike, but it's definitely smaller. It has good wheelbase though, and also a good ground to skid plate height. You can get over rocks better than I expected on this bike. Another huge note about the KTM Freeride is that you can pull the battery out of the bike and put a new one in if you want to keep going for a longer moto, or if you want to just get ready for your second moto at the track. As for charging it though, that's where things get real sticky. You have to have a 220 plug, and most people don't have that at their house, and if they do, they have that for their washing machine and dryer. So that has definitely been a big topic for us, something that's going to be difficult for our test riders to try to charge this bike, because not everyone has access to a 220 plug. Overall, we got a lot to learn still on this bike, but we're going to have some fun messing around on it and explaining to you guys what it's all about. All right, and then also I didn't mention the frame is chromoly steel like all of KTM's frames, but they also have this aluminum, forged aluminum subframe mixed in with the carbon composite plastic subframe as well. So 3 different materials used to do the frame and chassis on this Freeride. All right, so part of the experience is turning the key on. Quite difficult to get this thing on, but turn the key on, turn the red switch on, click the power button underneath the red switch, then it'll light up. It'll show you how much battery you have by surrounding the little map suite up here with lights, green lights. Then you press the button, click the power again, and now you're in map 1, and the rear wheel goes. So what is it like to ride this Freeride e-bike? Well, it is super, super easy to ride. With no clutch, with no shifting, no gearbox, you just twist the throttle and it rolls right into the power. Super smooth, super easy. Map 1, slow, tame, mellow. Perfect for me to go teach my buddies how to ride this weekend. Guys who have never ridden motorcycles before, they can hop on this thing and I believe be very, very comfortable right away and get the hang of what it's like to ride a dirt bike. Map 2, just a little bit faster, and then map 3, that's where I was in all day. More aggressive, more fun, more snappy off the bottom end, but it's still not a immediate strong burst of power like an Alta or another, full-scale electric bike would be. So still really smooth off the bottom end. The overall size of the bike, it is technically a full-size bike, but it's definitely smaller, smaller than a full-scale 250 or 450 four-stroke. The suspension is soft and plush, but it was perfect for the bumps and stuff that we're hitting today on these trails. And because you don't have to move your foot to hit the rear brake, and because you don't have to move your left foot to shift up or shift down, you can keep your feet in the proper position, riding on the balls of your feet. That's good for attack position, and it's fun to be able to practice riding with the best technique possible, keeping your feet on the pegs and getting your elbows up. So overall, I think there's a lot of fun things about this bike and a lot of benefits to working on your technique and working on just technical skills. Today, I had a blast on it riding around here at Glen Helen. We rode some trails, some single track. We rode some off-road fire roads and some ridges. We also messed around on the bleachers and a couple urban settings here at the Glen Helen Regional Park right next to the track. So had a lot of fun on this bike today, but I gotta tell you guys, this is not a full-scale motocross bike. This is not something I can go battle with any bikes on the track at Glen Helen. So yes, the price tag is pretty hefty for a bike that is low on power and also low on suspension components and stuff like that. But the main goal of this bike and the main reason that KTM is bringing more into the market now is to tell and kind of basically show off that, hey, KTM has been making electric bikes for over 10 years now. They developed this bike back in 2012, and now that electric bikes are starting to become more welcomed and more in vogue for motocross, KTM is reintroducing their Freeride and bringing it to the market. And I personally think that there's a small market where people can have a lot of fun on this bike. I personally had a blast on it anywhere that was dry and slick, because that way you can lose traction on the rear end, skid it out, do some cool drifts and have fun with it that way. But when you get in the deep soft stuff and you try to blow up a sandy berm or go up a soft sandy hill, there's not enough horsepower and there's not enough torque to get this thing really going. So not meant for motocross tracks, not meant for ripped, deep, muddy sections, better for off-roading in the dry and dusty and hard pack sections. That's where I had a lot of fun on this bike, and that's where I think if I had 3 or 4 of these and me and my buddies could go ride in the backyard and go ride in the hills straight from my parents' house or from somebody else's house, that's where you could have a lot of fun down here in Temecula, Menifee, Marietta, Southern California, riding around in the back hills. Today we got just over an hour of riding on this bike, and pretty much everything we did was on film. So I think if I was to do a hard moto or a long trail ride, maybe 40 minutes would be kind of max for it. But for me, just doing short segments, blasting a berm, blasting an uphill, blasting a downhill, that's where, you know, that really drains the batteries when you're hard on the throttle. But overall, it was a good time today on the KTM e-bike. Like I said in the title of the video, KTM's past. They've had this bike for 10 years. Now KTM has been developing their SX E5 and their SX E3 mini bikes, and now I think we're going to see more electric bikes as we move on. We'll obviously have the Stark Varg. That is a more motocross specific bike. You have the Alta that has been discontinued, but Stark is going to be very similar to Alta and hopefully even better. So we're looking forward to getting our hands on that bike. It'll be pretty interesting. But the big issue is charging this thing. So now we're at the track. You'd have to bring a whole nother battery to be able to do more motos at the track. That's where it's going to be a big bummer. It's more meant to go mess around with your buddies around town, around your parents' backyard, around somebody else's backyard, and in the trails and stuff like that. If you're trying to have a long trail ride, you're not going to be able to do it with just one battery. So who is the target audience and the target market for the KTM Freeride? Well, with a price tag of $11,000, it's gonna be the riders who can obviously afford something to have fun on the side. This probably won't be anyone's primary bike. For me, especially messing around on the stadium cross track here at Glen Helen, I think of it more of as a pit bike, something that I can have a lot of fun on, little tracks with, a lot of fun in the backyard, a lot of fun out messing around in the trees and the trails. And because it's an electric bike, you could take it urban places, downtown places where motocross and 2-strokes and 4-strokes would not be welcomed. I think you can get away with a lot more on these e-bikes, and we're seeing a lot of people with the Surons and other exotic electric bikes riding mountain bike trails and kind of riding in some exotic locations where dirt bikes are not welcome. So this bike, it is meant for trail riding, pit bike riding, playing around in the backyard, and having fun with your friends. There are pros and cons. I think this is a niche market, and I know that KTM is not introducing this bike expecting anybody who's watching this video to replace their 450 with this bike. You're not going to replace a KTM 450 or even a KTM 125 with this bike. This is not meant to go racing, supercross, motocross, GNCC, off-road, anything like that. It's more meant to be a free ride bike where you're free to go places where 2-strokes and 4-strokes are not welcome. So it's an interesting bike. Overall, it's a lot of fun to play around on, a lot of fun to mess around on. And it's definitely, I think, warming riders up to electric bikes and the possibility of riding them. And I could definitely see where it would be fun to have one of these and play around more with. So we're going to continue riding this bike. Jody, at his house, we had to get an electrician out there to wire up a 220 connector for his house so that we could charge this bike. I live in an apartment complex, so I have nowhere to charge this bike since I don't have a 220 volt plug-in. We're going to be charging this thing up a few more times. We're going to be testing a little bit more, and then we're going to write an article and have that in a future issue of Motocross Action magazine with some more details about this bike, breaking it down, how it works, what's good about it, what's bad about it. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe to Motocross Action magazine, get it shipped to your front door every month, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Motocross Action Mag. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. So when you got to make a pass, when you come up on somebody and you got to make a pass, they can't hear you, but you got this button right there. That's how you make passes. Epic fail. Redo. Sorry.